Welcome all to this week's episode with Helen Sadler from Flixwatcher. We're going to be talking about indie folk, and if you know me at all, you're thinking probably, oh dear, will Barbara enjoy any of this? But it turns out that it's not your average indie folk that we're talking about today, and Helen was a really wonderful guest and put together some eclectic playlists. So let's get into The National and Sharon van Etten.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, what are we calling this podcast?
Was it over-underrated?
Over-underrated. Sous-évalué. Überschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over-underrated.
Welcome to another episode of Over-Underrated with Fran and Babs. How are we doing today, Fran, in Saharan dust, Europe?
It's raining in sunny Bournemouth, and I just had a shepherd's pie.
Okay, keep going. Keep the
You want
Britishness
more?
up. Come on.
What else can I pretend I just had a cup of tea, and I'm going to have a bubble bath later on. Is that a British thing?
That's very good. With original source shower gel, maybe? Or
Well,
what's the bubble bath?
I would keep it local and have a Lush branded bath bomb.
Excellent, because Lush are from Poole, right? So
They are
that's in
indeed.
the area. Okay.
And then I'll have a Ydita, also from Poole.
What, really? It's not Swedish?
No, Ydita's from Poole.
I did not know this. Okay.
Well,
Wow.
welcome to the...
Facts. Hashtag facts. And what is the music that you've been listening to, British or otherwise, Fran? What have you been listening to this week?
I have not been listening to anything British. I've been listening to Canadian-based New Pornographers.
Oh, yeah. One of those bands that I vaguely know of, but not very much, and they seem a bit melodic.
They do love a bit of melody, but the reason is because I've always dabbled, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to give them a deep dive and make a little playlist, because I love a bit of playlist. So I made my 20 of the best of the New Pornographers this week. Why not? How about yourself?
I am doing good. I have actually been listening to Belgian music mostly this week because Stromae put out a new album and Charlotte Adigéry put out a new album, and they are both fantastic. It's really best of Belgium. It's really nice because Stromae is huge, obviously, so it's like he's getting all the press. He's been on Jimmy Fallon and stuff. But Charlotte Adigéry, it's let's say a bit more underrated. We've discussed her before. But I think her album got like a ridiculous score on Pitchfork on stuff like that. So it's really nice to see someone who you've followed for a few years is from Belgium, you know, not the most well-known of pop, rock, electro countries. So that's been really nice. But we are not alone today. We have a special guest with us. So welcome Helen from the Flixwatcher podcast. Hello.
Hello. So happy to be here.
Glad to have you. Have you been listening to anything in particular this week, music-wise?
I've been away, so I haven't been listening to that much music, but I tend to listen to, I know this is really bad, but Spotify's like artist playlists, and I get quite caught up with them, and have been listening to the likes of someone we're going to be talking about. Sharon van Etten's is a very big one, and then from there I ended up in a Best Atwell kind of zone, and then kind of wrapped back around with Angel Olsen. So I'm in that kind of vibe at the moment.
You're in that vibe. It's only normal because we've brought you on to discuss. We've decided it's called indie folk today. And you've mentioned Sharon van Etten, who we're going to be discussing as your underrated artist. But first up top is your overrated artist, who you want us to stress you don't think are overrated. But who are you? Which behemoths are you bringing today to discuss with us, Helen, on this indie folk episode?
The National.
There we go. So when we were kind of exchanging emails, thinking about which topics to talk about, you said it was one of the bands you listened to the most in 2021, right? They were high on your Spotify Wrapped. So why are you such a big fan of The National?
I think they're just kind of like one of those bands that you don't kind of like casually like people who tend to like The National like really like them, and they'll have like songs that they can kind of like pinpoint moments in their lives to. And if you go and see The National, then everyone tends to be quite sort of intense and having their like own moment with The National. And I just think they're a band that don't necessarily take themselves that seriously, even though some of their songs kind of can be quite sort of serious, and they kind of like shouty or sad. They kind of sway between shouty, sad, sometimes sad shouty. So that's kind of where they are. But I just the moment they entered my life, I was like, this is a band that I enjoy. And they're one of the few bands, like my favorite bands, who are still producing music and touring regularly. Because like a lot of my bands now that I enjoy don't really release much stuff. So they're a band that I can still look forward to a release and still know that they're going to be around and tour. So yeah, that's my love of the National.
Yeah, Fran, I think you like the National, right?
Yeah, I'm not a massive National fan. I don't own any of the albums, and I probably only got into them around the High Violet era. So they were always the band that the girl I fancied in the mid-noughties liked. I heard a track we're going to discuss later on, and I thought, oh, actually, they're pretty decent, aren't they, the old National? And they always feel like a bit like the American version of Elbow, the way that they took a few albums to sort of like get big, and then, you know, they never really had a hit single ever, the National, a bit like Arcade Fire. The one is bands who could headline a festival, but if you ask Average Joe, they can't name a single song by them.
I think they definitely struggle, yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan, but I've never listened to their first two albums. Just, they don't really play anything from them. And I think maybe I've listened to them a couple of times, and my entry came, a friend said when we were at Glastonbury 2010, oh, we should go and see the National. And I was like, oh, I think I've heard some of their tunes, and went to see them, and that was kind of like my moment there. But yeah, sort of kind of like went into the back catalogue, but for some reason the first two albums just don't do anything for me.
I heard Matt on a podcast say that like when they released Alligator, it was their make and break album, and their first two albums they kind of were in the same scene as like other New York bands like the Strokes and Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and felt they should be doing like indie, but it wasn't really for them. So the third album, I thought, right, what's our strengths? And Matt said, okay, I'm going to go for lyrics, and the band are going to go for like, you know, sort of like melodic, melancholic indie, and that's where they sort of found the sound. So I think to them, Alligator is their first album, and I think their first ever singles from Alligator was with Abel. So that kind of is, yeah, like their unofficial debut album.
Interesting, because yeah, I know very little about the National, and my live experience was nowhere near as positive as Rachel or Helen's. So they were on after Richard Ashcroft, but before Kraftwerk, and it was an extremely, extremely, extremely hot day, and I went to get a very cold drink, and I just could not wait for them to finish because it is very depressing music, and I was like, I am so not in the mood for this. Like, I really need some energy and some innovation. So I was just like, I knew them as, you know, as Helen said, like a cult band, like people who like them really like them. I know the name Matt Berninger. But I was just like, this is it? Oh, God. So that's why I've come in trepidation, let's say. You know, I knew them as like slow, earnest, indie, and I thought they would be the kind of band, like a lot of bands that we've discussed, where it's like, oh, but part of the joy is the lyrics. And as we always say, like for me, lyrics are not as important. But as ever, trying to come in without those prejudices. And I was really happy to see, Helen, that you know, for both of your playlists, you picked, you know, not just from one album, you picked from the wider discography. So was your approach to kind of show the best of throughout the years, or does it just happen that 5 of your favorites are from 5 different albums?
It was really hard because the albums that I've discounted, like even without that, they've got like quite a few albums. Yeah. So it's like, how can I pick my favorites? But yeah, so I tried to kind of maybe tell a story, or like a little bit more of like my musical journey through the National, and like some of them like peak National song like Fake Empire, I think is probably like a real fan favorite. If they play live and they don't include that, then it's real upset for the fans. And they did 3 gigs in Hammersmith Apollo a few years ago, and there was a lot of fan discussion about the different set lists and who got what on what night. And it's one of those things where you're a band and you've got so many albums and so many great songs that someone is always going to be a bit disappointed. Like, I don't know how they choose their set list, because sometimes they miss ones off and people are like, how dare they not play my favorite song?
So Fran, have you seen the National live? No,
I have not seen it live. I've seen them I've seen the documentary film, and that's like a tour. So I've seen them on TV live, but never in person. Surprisingly.
Yeah, surprisingly, because for once, me and Helen are the ones who've gone to watch the band and you haven't. But yeah, I do wonder if I would have appreciated the National more did I know some of their songs. I think, it was just, the particular setting of like a heat wave in Belgium with no shade, no water, like a man with a very deep voice singing about sadness was not what I wanted to at the time. So yeah.
I remember I saw The Cure in Hyde Park a few years ago. It was like the hottest day of the year, and Interpol was supporting, and they played at 3 p.m. And I was like, if you don't know Interpol, this is not the best way to see. This does not work.
All dressed in black. But before we get into your playlist, Helen, we have to address something because we normally ask people to pick 5 songs, but you've picked a bonus song. So I don't know how you want to do this. Do you have the 5 that you really are core, and then we just have a bit of a side discussion on the bonus? What do you think?
The bonus one was just a kind of like throw it in there, just something we should mention. It's not one of my favorites, but it was just something that came out, and it was like, oh, interesting collaboration. And
Okay, well then let's go through your top 5 and then talk about the interesting collaboration. What a teaser, guys! What could it be? You don't have the internet and you can't see. So Helen, what is the first song on your national playlist?
So the first track was Fake Empire, which I've already mentioned briefly, which is off the album Boxer. And I think this was probably the one that a friend of mine showed me, played me, and sort of said that was their favourite. And I've got like loads of memories of working with them and kind of like us playing the song a lot. And I just think the structure, like it opens with kind of the really slow piano that sort of feels like it's a little bit out of time, and then ends with kind of like this big brass ensemble, which kind of feels like it should be maybe at the start of the song or the middle of the song, but it's at the end. And the lyrics are poetry, man. Talking about lemonade and apple pies, and I just think there's just kind of like this really warm feeling about it. And the lyrics, I think, for kind of all the national songs, they're kind of like slightly obscure, but sort of in a way that you can kind of attach a time or a person or a specific memory to that song and make it your own. And I think he's kind of like deliberately ambiguous about these lyrics, that he's not certainly, going to give you like a whole story, but you can just kind of like think, well, this is about this moment in my life, or attach it to a girl you used to fancy or something like that. So lyrically it's really beautiful, and the structure is just quite unusual. I don't think I'd really heard that many bands mess around with kind of pianos and brass in guitar songs. It's mainly more like guitar and singing.
So Fran, did you know the song?
Yeah, I was always aware of it, and Matt said this is the song that saved the band. Like, they were on a make and break when they did the third album. They were on a new label, and then once they wrote this, they felt safe. And I think that Matt's wife is a writer for The New Yorker, and he felt like he had to up his game to impress her. So he wrote, that's where he wrote Fake Empire, and it worked. And he said that once they put horns, they knew that they had something, and that was like, okay, we're confident. We can go for another year at least as a band. But that said, for some reason I don't love it. Like, it lacks something. I don't know what it is. I love the verse and the like how it changes the time signature and everything, but I don't know, there's something missing. And what's interesting says that when he plays it live, the audience clap along, and usually it's the wrong time. So he says it's one of his best songs to play, but also the worst song he can sing.
That's interesting. Yeah, when the wistful piano started, I thought, oh no, I knew I wouldn't like this. But Helen, I totally agree with you. I much preferred the brass section. Why does it only come in at the end? It is what makes the song. Totally, I would have liked it interspersed or closer to the beginning as well. I do like his deep voice. Like, although I think it somehow doesn't go with the music, or maybe it does, but not for me, because it's so low. He's like a gentle bear, and I think there's something low energy about it that I just feel maybe it's because I've got ADHD and he just doesn't he doesn't hit the dopamine receptors for me personally. So I feel like on all the songs I could appreciate his voice, but on most of them it's like I appreciated it as separate to the song. But I loved the drums. The drums on so many of these songs are great. They're very clean, they're very clear, and very original. So yeah, I didn't hate it, but I knew from when the piano started that I wouldn't like it. And I was very confused by the lyrics, "Do our gay ballet on ice." What does that mean, Helen? Do you have any more intel on that?
I mean, whatever you want it to be. That's the beauty of it. Like, maybe you went ice skating and did some gay ballet with your friends and that was your favorite moment, and you had put gin in your lemonade and it was the best night ever, and then you never saw each other again. Who knows?
Oh, now I really want some gin. Okay, well, thank you, Helen, for painting a picture.
But Matt also isn't a fan of his voice, so...
Oh, is he not?
But he says he finds this tempo fits his kind of singing easier than like a faster song, so that's why they went down this direction afterwards.
Okay. And then the second choice from your list, Helen, is from an album that I know the album cover very, very well. Did not know it was The National, thought it was someone completely different. I feel like that's an iconic piece of artwork, but I'd never heard any songs from it. So what's your second pick?
The second pick is Sea of Love from the album Trouble Will Find Me. And it also it's one of those songs that the lyrics feature the name of the album also in.
That is quite satisfying when that happens, I have to say.
But yeah, this album, when you listen to an album to death so much that you have to have a period where you have to break up with that album because it's getting unhealthy and you need to have a break. So that this album for me was probably that, and it just reminds me of being in London at a particular time. And this song in particular, I really like the music video. It's a very simple one. It's just like a single shot, and they're in a room, and there's a little child wearing a suit, and they're all moving at different times, but they're all slightly moving at the same time as some of the instruments and some of the sounds. So it's like weirdly distorting in the different kind of movements.
It's one of the best songs of 2019.
2019? I've got 2013, no?
2013, obviously, typo. But yeah, when the harmonica goes underneath the chorus and the military drums start to happen, it hit me straight away the first time I heard it. I like the hypnotic guitars, like Nick Cave, and then it has like two choruses at the end of like a 1-2 punch, which always hits me, and I think it's one of their best songs, and I would love to hear this live. Let it happen, please.
I much preferred this kind of urgent start and this kind of whining rhythm guitar. I like how it keeps shifting focus unexpectedly, and the drums. But unlike you, Fran, when the harmonica comes in and the chorus happens, I was like, oh no. Like I enjoyed it on repeated listening, but to me, and I'm sorry, this is like subpar Editors or Interpol, is what I felt. Like there's a lot of elements there that, are seen in those bands. And it's not just his voice. Like I don't know why I didn't like the chorus. It wasn't just the fact that it was melodic, but it took away it took away the focus from me. It went sideways, and I would have really liked, a bit like the previous song, to kind of mix up the order and take a few things out and move it around personally for this one.
Do you not even like, I said, baby, I'd love you, that bit? No?
No.
Moving on.
What's your next pick, Helen?
So the next one is Light Years, which is off their most recent album, I'm Easy to Find. Kind of getting a feeling that you may not like this one, Babs. This one is probably like peak sad national. It features this whole album kind of had like a few videos that Alicia Vikander was in. So she's in all of the kind of the videos and the artwork and everything. And I was watching the video on YouTube before, and I was having a look at some of the comments. I love reading comments for online stuff. And someone wrote, this song, it's like an angel's wing touch.
Wow.
which I thought was very beautiful and very sweet. But yeah, this is really like intense, like a song that you could basically apply to sort of any relationship that maybe you've had and that's gone and it's missing, and it's a really emotional song. So I think it's definitely one of the highlights of their most recent album.
I read it on YouTube for the same song that no one can express the glory and pain more than the National. And that's from YouTube fan Paul Sander. Thank you, Paul.
You say, Helen, that you expected me not to like this one. Actually, this one was my favourite so far. I think because of I like the piano and how the motif keeps repeating, and I think his voice combines very well with the piano. And the lyrics are so obviously about heartbreak, and so you feel him talking about being light years away. And yes, it is a bit slow, and I didn't save it to my Spotify playlist, but I did add it to my chill playlist. So there we go.
Consider that a result.
Fran?
I'm surprised. Yes, I love the bright piano line mixing with Matt's baritone. It always squeezes my heart. And I imagine if I was at university, I'd play this. And when pretending to read some 19th century literature to impress people, but but I don't know. Yeah, it's maybe it's not one of the best. It's just a very typical national song, which is a good thing. But it wouldn't be in my top 5.
Well, let's see if the next one would be in your top 5, Fran. What's your next pick, Helen?
So the next one is Blood Buzz Ohio, which is off High Violet. So this was probably, I think the Six Music might pick this one up, and this was when they started to get more radio play on the BBC, and the album that I sort of remember sort of listening to more when it came out, and it just kind of like feels really cinematic. It's like a song from an imaginary movie in your head, and it's just got that like really good build, and I think it was just like the vibe of a time. And I remember seeing them at Glastonbury, and there was this one moment where Matt was like just staring out, and he was like, oh, it's just a beautiful sunset, and it was broad like sunlight, and we all sort of turned around and went, eh? And then they played this, and it was all great and wonderful. So yeah, it's kind of like, I feel like this is the really cinematic moment.
And the video is also like a little short film as well, isn't it? Yeah, this is when I first discovered the National, and yeah, as soon as I heard that first line and that drum pattern behind, I was like, oh, this is very much to me. And then as soon as you start singing, and the money, and the money, and the money, that was like stuck in my head for like a week. And I don't think I've ever heard the phrase blood buzz before, but I enjoyed it. I don't think any of the songs have ever used the word blood buzz. And yeah, I love the piano, I love the horns. It's like creates a lovely dynamic energy. And it's the sort of song that I'd love to dance to, but I don't know where they would play this. Not going to happen. But yeah, this is for me their best song, and I think for many people it's like the definitive national track.
Yeah, so this was the only one that I knew from the playlist, and I didn't realise. I was like, oh, it's that song. And I did know they were from Ohio, I think, God knows why. And from doing a bit of research about this, it seems like, like you were saying, Helen, that it could be interpreted in a lot of ways, but it is about, I guess, like returning to Ohio, returning to their hometown. I wrote that the good drums are back, and it's sounding more Editor's Interpol again at the beginning, which was good. But then when the piano comes in and his low voice, I'm just not a fan. I'm less engaged with this than, yeah, again, I keep coming back to Editors and Interpol. So because I know it, I guess I have some memories attached to it, but I also don't know where I would have heard this, because I don't really listen to Six Music. Was I living in England? I wasn't living in England, so it might be like an outre choice, an indie disco or something like that. But yeah, I have no idea. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that this is peak the National. This is what I would think would be peak the National, and that's why I'm not such a big fan. I prefer Light Years to Blood Buzz Ohio by a mile.
But I guess, if you're comparing it to Interpol and Editors, the neutral influences Joy Division. But I guess that's mainly because of the voice, isn't it? Any baritone voice is always linked to Ian Curtis, I guess.
The thing is, right, it's like his voice is quite original when placed with this music. I want to like it, but unfortunately I don't. How do you feel about his voice, Helen? Are you a fan, or like does it depend on the song?
Yeah, I'm a fan. I quite like his solo stuff as well, which is a bit like National Light, but his kind of voice. It's one that I struggle to get that low when I'm singing along. So like, sorry neighbours in lockdown, a lot of National listening. But yeah, I mean, I love like Nick Cave as well. So it's in my wheel park for kind of like gravelly male singers. So yeah.
They always seem to be in the same sort of gang as like Bon Iver and Sufjan Stevens and PJ Harvey and Arcade Fire. They always seem to be in the same sort of slight depressing indie music gang, which the Latitude will be embracing.
Yeah, I mean, all of those are like, yes, tick, 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 tick.
But like, I think one of the issues I have with the National is that I feel, and I'm not saying this about you, Helen, but I feel like their fans are the kind of people who think they're more intellectual than they actually are, or they're deeper than they actually are, and that kind of annoys me. And here I'm like, it's too vague for me to feel it's beautiful. I can't really associate. So yes, sorry about that. But I will say that your final pick, Helen, is intriguing, especially because it's much earlier than any of the other songs on this playlist, right?
So the final one is About Today, which is off an EP called Cherry Tree, which came out in 2004. And the first time I heard this it's on the soundtrack to the film Warrior with Tom Hardy and Sam Worthington. And I think it plays over the end credits, if I remember. I think so that film came out in 2011, and I Shazammed it in the cinema. I was like, oh, I recognise the sound of this. Oh, it's by The National. I don't know this one. What album is it on? It's not on an album. It was on an EP, which kind of like back in the day was quite hard to find. But obviously with Spotify and the internet, it is available online a lot more than it would be trying to track it down. So it's one of those that kind of is a fan favorite as well. So when they play that one live, it's like a little bit of a treat because it's not off the main album. But again, I probably think it's quite similar to maybe Light Years in sort of its tone and vibe. But again, I don't know whether this is slightly annoying, but it's kind of feels like it's going to go somewhere with the song, but then it just sort of ends.
Am I right in saying that? Because I also first discovered it watching the film, but I can't pronounce because my speech impediment. But I think it's a live version. And when I first went to discover it, I didn't like this version on the Cherry album Tree as much as the version on the Warrior. And and the live version is better. So if you want to check it out, try and discover the live version, which is on the soundtrack. But yeah, I love the guitars interweaving. And I love how he pauses a lot and goes, about tonight, in this romantic, heartbreaking manner. So yeah, I adore this track, and this was also another gateway for me into the world of The National. And same period, I think Bruce Springsteen did the Wrestler, and had that song at the end of that was a similar kind of style, which Babs hated. So this would be fun.
Actually, this is my favourite.
Oh,
yeah. I think when you said, Helen, that it was similar to Light Years in vibe, I hadn't thought about that, but I think it is. I really like it. I think because it's what you said, Fran. It's the interplay between the instruments. I don't know if it's a violin or a viola, but it's very simple. String instrument, guitar, percussion. The percussion is great. I don't know what he's hitting, but it builds and the voice works in harmony. So I think it is the most harmonious song. I'm still not saving it. It's only going onto the chilled playlist. But I could really appreciate the musicianship, the tightness, how everything came together. I think with a lot of the other songs on this playlist, I was like, oh, I like a bit here and I like a bit here. No, this one works in its entirety. And yeah, I was very intrigued to see why you'd pick something off an EP. So it's of course there had to be a film story. We have a film podcaster on today. So yeah, thank you very much.
A lot of people who like Radiohead also like The National. So I'm surprised you've been pushing back. Is it his vocals that does it, Babs?
I think it's the fact it's the vocals and the quietness of it, because I do like Radiohead, but I generally prefer guitar-y, louder, bloopy bleepy Radiohead to Fake Plastic Trees Radiohead. And yeah, I was surprised to see the variety on the playlist that Helen provided, which is what I was hoping for, so I'm glad we discussed it. But yeah, I think it's just, it is a certain kind of indie from the, for me, late noughties, early 2000s that was all in vogue. You know, all those artists you mentioned, Sufjan Stevens, you know, Devendra Banhart, all that. I'm like, oh, it's not for me. It's too earnest. I think that's what it is. It's too earnest. Like, not that Radiohead, you know, have a massive sense of humor, but maybe they have a bit more of one. But
have you heard Mr. November? That's their fast track, which they end a lot of the gigs with. Is that right, Helen?
Yeah, they do. It's the loud, sweary one. That was a consideration for this list, but unfortunately, it didn't make the cut.
I will go and listen. I will go and listen. But yeah, Helen, you wanted to discuss a surprise collaboration. I guess because it's bringing the National to a new audience, right?
Yeah. So 2021 was the second sort of Taylor Swift album that sort of arrived, and the first one was Folklore, which had Bon Iver on it, which I really, really liked. And then this came shortly after, and this Coney Island, which was written by Bryce and Aaron from the band, and Matt provided the vocals, written with Taylor because she does write her songs. And yeah, I think a friend sent it to me. It's like, hey, you like the National? And I was like, yes, what is this? So it's kind of, I think I described it as a bit of like a National B-side type of thing. But yeah, really interesting to kind of like hear Taylor and Matt singing together. And I think it's kind of, it sort of shows really her range of influences, and maybe perhaps I might have written her off as kind of like a bit poppy before, and this has kind of made me sort of maybe look at her in a little bit of a different way. So I wanted to kind of like add that as a little curveball at the end.
I mean, Fran, we know you like Taylor Swift, right?
Well, I loved the song Exile. I had it on repeat for all of 2020 with a tear in my eye. And, you know, I'm going to say I even liked Taylor Swift back in the Red years. I had never heard this before. I don't know why.
What? How?
Do you know what?
I missed that one.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
I remember like caring that she made 2 albums, and I don't know why. Maybe I was so in love with Exile, I thought, oh, I can't bear in case it's not as good. So this was interesting to discover, and yeah, it's very much a National sound. You know, I could hear the lyrics and think, yeah, that's a lot of my previous relationships there. Although I do win arcade prizes, unlike in the song.
Ladies, you hearing
Thank
that?
you. Yep, yeah. I can win you something. And I love the big birthday cake, happy birthday cake line. The backing vocals are angelic. It's like a little choir in the background, and yeah, I was in love when I heard the song, and especially watching it on YouTube with the lyrics over Coney Island. So thank you, Helen, for introducing this song to me. And here comes Babs to break my heart.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, if I'm breaking your heart, then that's within the theme of Taylor Swift's, a lot of Taylor Swift songs, right? So yeah, I am not a Swiftie, but I feel like the songs of Taylor Swift that I like are the ones that no one does, or, you know, the fans say. I really like Bad Blood. That's my favorite. The one with Kendrick Lamar on the verse, not the album track. And I quite like a lot of songs off Reputation. Which again, yeah, it's not folky, it's not poppy, it's not country. So because I vaguely knew about Evermore, I knew that it was more folky and it would be the National. I thought, is it going to sound like a National song? And yeah, I think, like you said, Helen, it sounds like a National B-side. But like you, I think their voices work very well together because, you know, he is so gruff and she is more feminine. It works. It's like I would like a bit more of that in the National. Actually, maybe it would be nice if there were some more guest vocalists.
Wow.
But song-wise...
Well.
Oh.
There are Light Years features a lot more guest vocals than like any of their other work as well.
Oh, yeah?
They also took I think it was the Staves. They took the Staves on tour to do the backing vocals for the tracks on that. I can't remember annoyingly, sometimes like the national songs have titles that have no relevance to the lyrics, and it's really hard to remember what they're called. But I will find out. If you want the specific one, I will find out at the end and let you know that specific one, so you don't have to listen to the whole album. But I can't remember the name off the top of my head because it's a weird title.
Okay. But yeah, the artist we're going to talk about in a minute is features on national albums. And so does Saint Vincent, I believe, as well, has sung with them. So yeah.
But are they there in the guise, or is it featuring, Saint Vincent?
I don't think they hide it. I think yeah, because I think the guitar player from National, one of the twins, I forgot his name, he produced Sharon's work as well. So there's a lot of intermingling.
Okay. Well, yeah. So having said a few nice things about the song, it's not for me. It's pure Americana. It's not my, and like referencing Coney Island, I felt quite cynical about it. I'm like, of course they have like this little chintzy song, and they're going to be talking about Coney Island, which is this kind of definitely that kind of tragic glamour, old time glamour in New York. And I was like, yeah, okay. I wonder how many times Matt or Taylor have been to Coney Island to have an ice cream or play on the arcades. So yeah, I'm glad that I listened to it. And I guess Mark Lanigan, R.I.P. He did the albums with Isabel Campbell, and that's two artists with completely different voices, and they're one of those collaborations where I've never quite gone into it, but this has made me think, like, actually, maybe this is my thing. Gruff men with ungruff women. Maybe I should give it another shot.
Would you enjoy a love song set in Blackpool with Tom York and Ellie Goulding?
Oh my God, yes. Ellie Goulding and Tom York. Where'd you pull that out of? 100%.
Equivalent.
I would absolutely love that.
I will send an email.
Make it happen.
So after this, Fran, what do you think? Do you think that the National are overrated?
Well, I like the National. I've never found the adulation that some people give them. And I've watched the film, I've listened to 4 or 5 albums, and I would say that I probably only like maybe 20 songs across their entire catalogue. So I don't think they're as good as some people think they are. So I think that they are slightly overrated, which will shock you maybe. Slightly. But I've not seen them live. I think if I saw them live, I would maybe enjoy them a little bit more.
Yeah, so I saw that 4 of the band's albums were included in NME's 2013 list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. They're overrated. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like 4 albums. I mean, okay, yeah, in 2013 is when Trouble Will Find Me came out, so I'm guessing they're on the consciousness of people. But they have 3.1 million monthly listeners, and while definitely thank you, Helen, for putting this playlist together, I have maybe a bit more of an appreciation for some of their songs, and clearly Light Years and About Today the directions that I should go in. I'm not quite convinced, I'm afraid. But yeah, Helen, I mean, we should give you the floor to give one final defense of the National and why you think we're terribly wrong about them being overrated.
I mean, to be honest, they probably are a little bit overrated.
Now you've seen the stats.
Incredible.
I mean, that doesn't change the fact that like I absolutely love them, and I've got tickets to see them live this summer. Hopefully,
Where?
So they're playing at All Points East Festival, which I think there's tickets left for that, and then I have got tickets to see them at Brixton Academy, but it was cancelled. I don't know if it's going to be rescheduled, but hopefully it's going to happen. And every album they're going to release, I'm going to buy, and I'm going to listen and relive my National memories in my head. But yeah, I can understand like why they might not resonate with everyone.
You're here better representing the National fans, I have to say, Helen, because yeah, you're coming across very, very balanced and nice and reasonable. That's not my impression that I had of them.
Well, I think Brixton Academy would be perfect because it's big and small at the same time, and it's small enough that Matt may get in the crowd and sing.
I've been to one where he does that.
Yeah,
he gets in the crowd. It's a very special moment.
But you can't really do that at Glastonbury, can you? So that would be a great gig. I would see if I can get to Brixton Academy.
Fingers crossed.
Hey, podcast lovers. Now available. A new podcast experience featuring exclusive miniseries like food faves, and all new series that takes a fun look at everyone's real first true love, food. Milky Way Marvels, a lighthearted astronomy series where we explore the fascinating wonders of our galaxy. Pop culture icons, an entertaining, nostalgic look back at various nouns in popular culture, plus more. Relax, enjoy, listen, laugh, and maybe even learn. Podcast, presented by Sonic Embassy. Now streaming everywhere you listen.
Access quick links to your favorite places to listen now at solo.to/Sonic Embassy.
Underrated.
Welcome back to part 2, and we're going to be discussing an underrated act at the moment, at least according to Helen. Helen, who have you picked for indie folk underrated act of the, I was going to say of the year? An indie folk underrated act.
It is the one and only Sharon van Etten.
SVE. I had heard of her before. I didn't know that much. So again, she was also, from what you said, one of your top Spotify Wrapped artists, right? So why have you picked her today?
Yeah, so I had a look about my stats. So I had 674.6 hours of Spotify in 2021. That was last year, wasn't it? And the top song was Let Go, apparently. That was my most listened to song, which isn't on an album of hers, but was one, obviously, that was on mass rotation. And I kind of like always knew about her and knew her as being a bit like a kind of an indie folk singer. Like her big hit was Every Time the Sun Comes Up, I'm in Trouble. So she was kind of like in my ear space. And then it was when she released Remind Me Tomorrow in 2019, like that album like just is like banger after banger. And that was a real album that I ended up listening to a lot during like the first lockdown. There's a lot of like really good like sing-along songs on there. And she's one of those artists who's been around for quite a while, but has never really kind of made it big. And I just think it's interesting. She's kind of like she was always sort of reinventing herself musically, but not like in extreme way. So she's one of those artists that has just continually making music that's really interesting to me. So that's why I picked her, and I think more people should hear what she has.
I first discovered her in 2019. I guess it was this album, and I discovered the song Come Back Kid, which made my best of 2019. See, I put the wrong order. And I thought she was a new artist. I had never heard anything since. And in fact, today was the first time I realised she'd been going for like nearly 10 years beforehand. And she's very different. Her first 3 albums were more Americana, more sparse and more sad and folky. And I listened to her podcast as per usual. And discovered that on this album she wanted to try new things and wanted to go more electronic, and she said she wanted to mix Portishead with Nick Cave and Suicide.
Oh yes, please.
Which is, and I listened to maybe 4 or 5 songs before we started today, and I definitely prefer this period of Sharon compared to the previous few albums. So what I've heard since, and I knew a couple of tracks we're going to talk about. So I guess I'm a fan and waiting. I'm waiting to discover more of Sharon.
Yeah, so I thought I didn't know any Sharon van Etten coming in. She's one of those people that like I see on the internet, and one of the songs that we're talking about today is a collaboration, and I'd seen the album artwork for that a lot. But I don't know if I just kind of dipped in and thought, this isn't for me. But yeah, I thought I was coming in blind. And yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see that she's from New Jersey. I feel like we talk about people from New Jersey all the time, Fran. And there's definitely some influences there from some people in that some people in that area that I want to talk about. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see how many synths there were. I was like, okay, this isn't your standard indie folk musician. And I guess, Helen, all your picks are from 2017 onwards. So I'm guessing you also prefer synthier Sharon van Etten than rockier Sharon van Etten.
Yeah, definitely. And not so much like the kind of like country or folkier stuff. There's just something about this Remind Me Tomorrow album that just seemed a lot more urgent about her music and more like, you need to listen to this and you need to hear it. Whereas before it was a bit kind of like, I'm just singing this song and like, you might like it, you might not. Whereas this is like, you need to hear it. I'm screaming. So yeah, I have listened to her earlier stuff, but it's not really what doesn't make me get up and sing and dance around the living room with my cat.
So yeah, Sharon van Etten fans, we hope you're with us on this. So what's your first pick from the list, Helen?
My first pick is the absolute banger that is 17, which I love this song. It's so good. There's also, I saw her at Glastonbury in 2019 and very, very, very sweaty, and she was playing in the John Peel tent, and it was kind of like the sweat where it was dripping off the ceiling and like everyone was just there. And
those pre-COVID times, eh?
Yeah.
Drinking a sweat.
The live version of this is incredible and had great fun screaming along to it. And it's on YouTube, like the BBC Glastonbury coverage, so you can go and watch the live version. I really, really recommend it, and it really kind of shows like her vocal range. But yeah, just like the build up to this, and it's just got like, it's like about like New York City, and it's just kind of got like that edgy New York vibe, like when PJ Harvey did Stories from the City. It's that kind of New Yorky vibe going on.
Yeah, so I've been listening to a lot of Ladytron recently. So when I saw 17, that's what I thought. So I had to kind of get that out of my mind. But yeah, I wrote that it reminded me of Anna Calvi, Torres, with hints of Bruce Springsteen and Bleach as well. And I wrote this again. I'm like, this would be a nice down-tempo song at an indie disco. And I really like, you know, the mix of guitars and synths. I like it when it goes a bit mad, when she starts screaming and the synths go crazy, but it didn't quite do it for me. I think it might be one that I need repeated listens of, because from the way you've described watching it live, I'm there with you. Like, I'm sure that to sing along with other people, this is actually a good one. So even though I didn't save it, it wasn't for me, I'm going to hold off being my final judgment, I think, at the moment.
I listened to it, like a discussion on how she wrote it, and she wrote it with a writing partner, and she just did a simple song on an acoustic guitar, and then she told her co-writer to sing it back to her, and her co-writer added the anger at the end of it and the emotion, and then she borrowed that, and then she said, it's about her going back to New York and discovering that everything has completely changed, and she prefers New York went to 17, that's the idea. And those weird sounds, as the producer is distorting his guitar to make those weird noises in the background. It's not a synth. And when she went to mix, when she went to mix it, the mix said, "Do you want me to keep those noises? Is that an accident?" And she said, No. I wanted to make it edgy. I wanted to make it nothing like Americana. I wanted to remove any Americana on this album. And I think they succeeded.
But it's still there. No, I still think, like, I wrote Bruce Springsteen and Bleachers for a reason. And I mean, I'm maybe, saying modern Bruce Springsteen, which is also a bit more kind of electronic. But I think everything's there. It does draw on all her influences from what I see.
But yeah, Anna Carvey's a good shout. I also think, do you know Joan the Policewoman?
Yeah, again, one of those I know, but know very little about.
Similar voice. She's got such an interesting voice, It's like you fall in love with it. So I'm a fan, and I love the how it builds and the harmonies and sort of the explosion at the end. So I love a bit of 17, and I also like a Ladytron 17 too.
Yeah, they only want you when you're 17, right?
Indeed.
So, there we go.
It is such a popular number for songs, for Stevie Nicks as well, and other ones.
Of course, yeah. I guess 16 sounds a bit more wrong. Perhaps, I don't know.
More of the 70s vibe, the old 16.
But yeah, I might have talked about this on the podcast before, but I remember going to a nightclub once when I was 16, because I grew up in Luxembourg and you could do that at some places. And I remember being with my friends and meeting these much older guys, and they were like, "Oh my God, you're 16, amazing. Like girls, enjoy it because it's shit from here on out." And I was like, Christ, really? What a depressing message to receive from some older people. So yeah, enjoy your teenage years, guys. But I am enjoying being in my 30s, definitely. Helen, what's your second pick?
So my next one is a fairly recent release. It's the duet with Angel Olsen, Like I Used to. I think this was one that like Spotify will sometimes tell you when there's a new song by an artist when you open it up. And I think I saw it on there, or it was on a playlist, and I was like, what is this? What is this magic? I love Sharon van Etten, I love Angel Olsen, and yeah, I listen to it a lot. And the lyrics are kind of like really kind of post-COVID-y, and like avoiding the crowds like I used to, sitting at home like I used to. And I just really love their two voices together. It's like a perfect duet, and the sound is really, really polished, which I don't think Sharon van Etten's sound is particularly polished, but this together, I just think it's just like amazing to have these two brilliant voices joining forces in this kind of post-lockdowny situation. Like the video is them basically in isolation, split screen, they're just kind of like lounging around, and it's like, yeah, I kind of get that sort of vibe from that. So it's one of those songs that's always going to remind me of like the weird year that wasn't quite locked down but was still locked down. So yeah, it's great. Those two voices together, just like a dream come true for me.
Yeah, I love it. The voices match perfectly. She loves a stabby piano, doesn't she, Sharon? Dun, 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 dun. I like the climbing bass line comes in occasionally and has little like guitar lines, and yeah, it's a perfect accessory for a great song. And it could easily have been an acoustic ballad, just two acoustic guitars, but like I said, the production is brilliant, and it's a standout track from last year, I believe.
I agree that their voices go fantastically together. And Angel Olsen, yeah, she's an interesting one because she is definitely not my usual cup of tea, but she has a lot of very interesting songs. Like she's one of those people that I need to go and listen to albums several times to pick it out. And yeah, Shut Up Kiss Me is one of the best love or lust songs out there for sure. On this one, unfortunately, it's a bit too country and Americana for me. It was my least favorite of the playlist. But yeah, I was surprised, number one, that it came out last year. If you'd have asked me, I would have guaranteed it was like 2015, 2016. I don't know why. Maybe I saw that. Yeah, this is the one where I saw the cover of so much because they're two attractive women, back to back or with like a red background. I just remember seeing it all the time, and I was convinced it was an album, not a single. So yeah, I think it would be interesting to see what else that they could do. And because I didn't pay much attention to the lyrics or watch the video, I didn't realize it was about COVID and it came out in 2021. So yeah, again, maybe I need to reconsider.
I haven't heard any rumors of them doing anything else. So yeah, I thought it would be like an album, but no, just that
tease, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, how dare they?
But Sharon collaborated with quite a few people over lockdown. She did a cover of Peace, Love and Understanding with Josh Home.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't realize.
Check it out. It's on the old YouTube.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, there's another collaboration coming up later, but yeah, let's tease for now. Before then, Helen, what's your third pick?
So the third one is my most listened to single in 2021, although it came out in 2020. Let Go. I think it kind of says a lot about my mindset, really, for the last couple of years. I don't know. It's kind of the interesting period because she basically made Remind Me Tomorrow, which was like this kind of like synthy and a little bit darker than before. And then she's just kind of done like some singles and stuff. She hasn't really put out an album, and like Let Go and Like I Used to, they're all quite different. And it was just one of those songs that I just really liked and thought, I kind of wonder whether the next album would be more in that direction. I don't really know. Just really like her voice on this one.
I enjoyed the spider guitar, the Larry Mullen from U2 drum pattern. It reminds me a little bit of Let Down by the band Radiohead. With the guitars and the harmonies, and in the verse, she sounds like she's about to sing "Time After Time" by Cyndi Lauper. The video doesn't work at all. But no, it's decent.
I got such strong Torres vibes again from this song. Do you know Torres, Helen? If not, it's not the footballer. It's an American woman called Mackenzie Scott. Fran picked one of her songs for the best of 2021. So it's TORRES. She similarly, I guess similar to Sharon van Etten, she started much more, let's say, bluesy, grungy indie, and has gone much more synthy in the last few years. And her last album was very much at the guitar synths crossroads that I think Sharon van Etten is. So I think you would like her. I wrote, Cynthia. I do generally prefer when she's Cynthia. I like them, and I like the tinkling piano, but I'm not a fan of her guitars or her vocal line here. So I'm surprised that you said you compared it to Let Down, because Let Down is a good Radiohead song. It's not one of my favorites, but that's not where I went.
Maybe I think for guitars and the harmonies, because you know how Let Down has a lot of like layered harmonies at the end of it.
Yeah,
okay. That bit, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Then yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I felt with this one, it's like, we're almost getting to my sweet spot, but not quite.
That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Nice try, Sharon, but not yet.
not yet. But what's your next pick, Helen?
So the next one is another track off Remind Me Tomorrow, and this is Jupiter 4. Yeah, it was hard to... I mean, I probably could have picked like a lot more off this album, but it wouldn't have been very interesting. But yeah, this one is just, it's kind of like a bit dark and a bit edgier, and a bit kind of like being in sort of an echo chamber of kind of like your mind. And yeah, I just think I think it's really, really different from maybe the other stuff that came before it. And yeah, one of my other top ones. I mean, this and Comeback Kid off that album are like, they're the big singles, and they are great. But yeah, this one just sneaked in past Comeback Kid.
I'm glad, because this is my favourite on the playlist. It's the moodiest, it's the synthiest. I love the effect on her voice. I looked up what Jupiter 4 was, which is apparently the name of a Roland synthesizer, but it also sounds very spacey, like she's in Jupiter. And I absolutely love when the bass comes in to interplay with the guitars and the synths. It just, there's a groove that I wasn't expecting. I was a huge fan of this, and I saw on the track listing that it comes just before 17. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to give old Sharon a bit more of a deep dive, because it seems like if there's more stuff like this, yes, please, nom nom nom, give it to me, thank you.
The Jupiter 4 was an analog keyboard, and she's a fan of OMD, and OMD used that keyboard. It's got sad synths, it's got a black and white serious video. The video is so serious, it even has credits, which don't get on most music videos. Although she is an actress, isn't she? She's been in in a couple of Netflix shows. This would be perfect for a moody Netflix TV show, I believe. A YouTuber said that this video made him stare at the wall whilst holding shoelaces. I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means.
Good or bad?
Who knows? But it got 24 likes.
I love, we've started doing this recently, talking about YouTube comments on videos. I like this. This is like us ripping off Adam Buxton, but in a more niche way.
But yeah, I also said when the bass comes in halfway through, I love it, and there's got a sinister sort of vibe to it. The lyrics are strange because the lyrics are really like poppy. It's like a proper love song, and doesn't really suit the sort of the music behind it. But yeah, I'm happy that she's added electronic to a sound that's working.
Well, have you seen that meme that's been going around, which is, the meme of the guy on the bus staring at the wall looking sad, and the guy on the bus staring outside the window and looking happy? So there's been a meme recently where they've put the sad guy in black and white and kept the other guy in colour, and said, what songs have these lyrics but this beat, basically a very nice beat and very depressing lyrics? And that's been quite interesting. And here I guess it's it is that the reverse of moody as fuck but still a love song.
The sweet spot.
The sweet spot, yeah. I mean, again, when you said edgier, I'm like, yes, that's why I like it. That's exactly why I like it. I like an edge. My dad says that my music taste is exhausting, and all I want is kind of high energy stuff. Not always, but I do like an edge. But yeah.
But do you like the edge?
Do I like the edge? Do you know what came to mind when you said that? Bill Bailey.
Oh yeah,
his section on the edge being the only reason the edge sounds so good, it's because it's got all this production, and all he's doing there is down, down, down. I think you two have got some good songs, and he plays great guitar, but overrated. I don't know. I think I'd need to reflect and listen to a playlist and come back.
I mean, the Edge, like if someone said like Edge was releasing a solo album, you'd be like,
Okay. But I know some big U2 fans. I think some people out there would really get into it, but I don't know. John Frusciante, he's not. Let's say. So Helen, what's your final pick on the list? Another collaboration.
Yeah, so the final one is I think you pronounce it Omnion, or I call it like the Onion song, because it sounds a little bit like she's singing Onion. And it's a collaboration she did with Hercules and the Love Affair. I really don't know much about this other than I Shazammed it one year and listened to it lots. And I quite like some of the stuff that they've done. This probably isn't like one of their more upbeat ones, but I just really like how they've used her voice, and it's just kind of nice when you hear maybe singers that are generally more kind of like guitar-y based do like dancier tracks, and you're like, oh yeah, I like your voice and I can also have a dance. And yeah, I just think it's kind of like an interesting one, and there's a few like interesting mixes of it as well. I think it came out the single, so you can kind of like up the dance a little bit. So yeah, I thought it was interesting just to show kind of the range that she has. And yeah, she's just done loads. She'll sing for anyone, won't she? Come on Sharon, come and sing on my album. Like, yeah, sure. She'll be like, yeah, sure.
Helen, I'm so glad you picked this song, because you've given me an opportunity to wax lyrical about Hercules and Love Affair, who I adore. I saw them live around this album tour in 2017 in Antwerp, and I saw them in Luxembourg in 2010 in a very, very small venue. Like one of those gigs where I'm like, I'd never heard of them, I just went along, and they absolutely blew the roof off. I think they're one of my favorite live acts. I have to say the energy they bring is incredible. And from this album, the song that I'm totally obsessed with is Controller with Faris Badwan from The Horrors. And it's really interesting what you said about her being the kind of voice that you wouldn't necessarily associate with this kind of electronic music. But I know that with that song with Faris Badwan, the frontman of Hercules and Love Affair was like, I was precisely looking for rock stars who had an electronic sensibility. And he said that he reached out to Faris Badwan after The Horrors did a cover of Your Love by Frankie Knuckles at Glastonbury, which is one of my favorite covers of all time. Like it's really fantastic, because they make it a bit rockier, but still keep there's some great synths and still keep the electronic elements. So yeah, this song specifically, I think because I love Controller so much and one or two others, I actually hadn't listened to it in a while. And I remember being like, okay, this isn't one of my favorites, but actually, like, I really enjoyed it this time around. I think her voice works so well with the synths, and it just, I feel almost, not quite, but like your playlist got synthier as it went on. And I do think her voice works very well with synths. I think I prefer her voice with synths than guitars, even though, you know, I'm sure you guys would disagree because you like I used to. But yeah, great pick.
I prefer her with synths as well. So
okay.
More synths. What do we need? More synths. A little bit more.
Synths.
So yeah, I guess an omnion I read is a loose particle in universe or something. I don't know how.
Okay. Glad you looked it up.
I don't know why she's asking that for help. I don't know. When Hercules Love Affair came out, I think I saw them at Lovebox maybe 6 years ago. They seemed like the Lovebox sort of. I thought they were like a more of like a campy dance band, but maybe I was completely wrong.
No, honestly, like it's such. I don't know how to describe it. Such tight electronic music, and what is his name? I am looking him up now. Andy Butler. Thank you, Andy. So and he's now based in Ghent. Very good. Well done, Andy.
So where are they from?
He's American. So okay. I think he was based in New York. So he always brings guest singers. So I think Gustav features on a few songs from this album, but then he would also sing the songs from from the other guests. Unfortunately, Faris Badwan wasn't there when I saw him, and I think it's the perfect mix of like a DJ in the club, but also a live band. It's like you feel like you have both, like, yeah, the performance element, where the way that he's bringing together the people and performing the songs not quite as on the album. It's really interesting and innovative, but he's still a DJ. It's still like a dance show. So I think both gigs, the first one knowing absolutely nothing, and the second one knowing a bit more and enjoying the album and the song, I felt just as great after both of them. It's really like an event. So if you can go and watch them live, I would really recommend it.
I've never seen them. They're one of those bands that I've just kind of missed, but they seem like a band that would bring the party. Like
100%. And yeah, their debut album, which I guess would have been the one that they were playing when I saw them in Luxembourg, is from DFA Records, so it is that world of James Murphy et al. And yeah, those two albums, so Omnion and Hercules and Love Affair, are the two that I prefer because they're the ones where I saw the live band. And actually, I just realised they've released an album this year, and I hadn't even noticed, so I know what I'll be doing after this.
Although it'd be hard to dance to this too, to be fair. It's not really
up
tempo.
I didn't check whether they must have played the song. It's the title song from the album, but okay, yeah, you might not be able to dance, but you can definitely bop your head. Yeah,
I love Sharon's like treated dreamy vocals. There's definitely some sort of effect on her voice, isn't there? And I love the synth pattern. Yeah, like I said, unfortunately I can't dance to it, but it's been fun learning a new word. Omnion is the word of the day. Omnion.
Omnion. O-M-N-I-O-N.
Not Omicron. That's a very different thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Although it would be a catchy single, so it's a bad pun. But
well, Fran, I was just listening to our K-pop episode, and Reggie mentions Omarion, who apparently is he a rapper, I think, or an R&B singer, and apparently he's been having issues because that also sounds like Omicron, and he's like, I'm not a virus.
If you're an indie band wanting to be called Delta, also don't bother. Yeah, so it was a surprising track. I was not expecting her to. I had no idea she had collaborated with so many people, to be fair.
But even though you couldn't dance to it, you liked it.
I did enjoy it, yes.
But you could dance to it. Like, I'm refusing to believe that you can't.
Yeah, I mean, you can dance to anything, really. But...
Guys, let's meet up for the 2022 Hercules and Love Affair tour and go and dance.
But in my indie disco, I prefer to dance to the Blood Buzz Ohio over this.
But Controller, if you don't know Controller from the same album with Faris from the Horrors, that you can definitely dance to. And yeah, the video's a bit mad. But there we go. So, Fran, underrated Sharon van Etten, question mark?
If we're pretending that she didn't exist until 2017, yes, because I love her work from the last 5 years.
Okay. With me, I saw that she has over 2 million monthly listeners, right? So I don't think I enjoyed her music enough to think that she's underrated, but I'm happy to have been introduced to more of her work. Like, I definitely want to go and listen to her more. I don't know if I'm going to become a big Sharon van Etten fan, whatever era. So for now, I will say that she's not underrated, but I'm happy to learn more and have my mind changed.
Pretty sure like most of those listeners were just like me on repeat. Probably what it was.
Let go. Well, now it tells you how often you listen to songs. So I think my most listened to song in 2021, I listened to it 151 times. And I definitely listened to it more than that because I also bought it on Bandcamp. And, sometimes when there's no internet or whatever. So, yeah, I think I would estimate that up to 200. So, I'm sure you contributed a lot.
Can I ask, though, can you see what cities listen to her? Because I think in the UK, not many people would know her outside, like, maybe Six music listeners.
This is the thing, like, I thought she was like a hipster American indie person. So the cities are London top, Los Angeles, New York City, Sydney, and Brooklyn. So yeah, London top, but yeah. Then the US and Australia. But yeah, big metropolitan centres. That doesn't surprise me at all.
It's where the hipsters hang out.
I mean, these are two very hip acts that you've picked, right? Even though they clearly have a big fan base. And resonate with a lot of people. Yeah, is this almost hipster episode, Fran? Potentially.
Well, weirdly, the National were apparently linked to the New York team, so this could almost be a New York part 2. Helen, are you going to see her live?
I did see she was touring this year, but the date didn't quite work, and also she was down to tour with the National.
Wow.
Oh, what up?
I'm kind of I mean, it's not going to happen, but kind of like crossing my fingers that this cancelled national gig may happen and she may support them. I mean, it's not going to happen, but you can dream. So I have seen her. I would recommend her, but I saw her kind of on the Remind Me Tomorrow tour. So I don't know whether because she's got a new single out, which I quite like. I'm not sure whether it's the levels of like 17 and Jupiter 4. So if she's going to maybe be moving a bit more in a different direction, when you're like, I've kind of seen the act at the perfect like moment with the album that I really, really love, and then you kind of like maybe see them again and they don't play the song, and you're a bit like, it was all right, but I want to go back and have that moment again.
They do like a tour where they just play that album. Thank you very much, Helen, for coming on today and chatting Sharon van Etten and the National and live sweaty gigs. What would you like to plug while you're here?
I guess I should plug the podcast. So please do listen to FlixWatcher. If you search in there, you will find that Babs has been a guest. Came on and picked the film Superbad and returned for an episode. We had School of Rock as well. And we had a lot of fun with those two films. So yeah, it's a weekly Netflix review show. We have different guests on and they come and bring a film. So I never really know what to expect. It's always good fun. And yeah, just search FlixWatcher for your podcast.
Very good. Yeah, it was very fun to guest on FlixWatcher, and it's very different. So this podcast is perhaps a bit too loose, whereas on FlixWatcher it was like, you've got a minute to say the synopsis, and I was just like, oh my god, it was quite a fun challenge. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, absolutely check it out. But yes, thank you very much, Helen, for coming on. Fran, any final words?
Enjoy yourself, and if you're in the UK, you can now see gigs. So see as many as you can before they're taken away again.
Yeah, in Belgium as well. Everything was lifted as of 2 weeks ago. So I got a lot of gigs coming up in May and June. I've got Kim Gordon, I've got Peaches, I've got Dandy Warhols, Charlie XCX. So
go sing and be sweaty.
Yeah, yes. Sweat off the ceiling, as you said, right, Helen?
Yeah, I've got Spectre, Sea Power, Psychedelic Furs in April. So again,
this is all so us. Like the list we've just given is that is if there was some kind of Fran Babs bingo, that would be ting ting ting. Have you got any gigs coming up, Helen? Apart from National?
Yeah, I've got a few. I've got a few that were booked in like 2019 that have been kind of like rolled over. So need to remember I've got them.
Yes. Yeah.
So I've got Beck coming up. I've got the National. I'm also going to see Nick Cave at All Points East as well. I've got Elton John at some point.
Wow.
And recently I've seen Damon Albarn. And yeah, there'll probably be a few more when they come up. But yeah, it's my first gig after lockdown was Gorillaz at the O2, and it felt like being reborn. So yeah, very very happy that live music is back, and hopefully all the festivals will be able to go ahead, and yeah, gigs will carry on, and that music is life.
I was going to say, support live music, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You made it to the end of another Over Underrated episode. So what do you think? Do you prefer Sharon van Etten, her guitarist? Do you like a gruff man with a more feminine vocal? Get in touch and let us know. You can email us overunderatedmusicpod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter @OUMusicPod, and we're @OverUnderatedMusicPod on Instagram. Maybe I shouldn't be so scared of folk in the end.